I wanted to take a few moments to explore and talk about God. Even to use the word God, that can often bring up a lot within someone. It has definitely been a massive development, evolutionary process for me to even come into using the word God. Over this has probably been way over a decade of understanding, familiarity, looking at it from theoretically, but then going progressively more and more into the feeling, knowing state of God. And I think where we struggle as a collective is there's so much trauma behind the word God. We can, even when we're on a spiritual path, we can say that we believe in God. We can say all this stuff, we can read all the books, but there's still this very much unconscious guilt around guilt and trauma around God, because we've seen and observed over great expanses of time the destruction that's come from the word God, from the delusion people have pushed, and the agendas, the misinterpretations, the falsehood that's been pushed to move, manipulate, shape, and coerce great expanses of people. And the word God has been weaponized massively by certain people, certain groups to push different agendas. And it's that we battle with when we come into our own spiritual path, when we come in, because I've come from absolutely no religious background at all, absolutely none. I was born in a little town in England, and when I was young, it was just none of it. If anything, God was very much not liked within my environment that I grew up in, and that was very influential, of course. And then when I started to feel something happening within me, this blossoming of inner development started to happen. It really brought up a lot of conflict. It felt like I was being pulled into a path that was very not aligned with my current environment, family dynamics, friendship dynamics, and to this day there's still this navigation of differences, but it's very, very different now. There's this very much trust, the development of over a decade of evolution. There has definitely been this development of trust to keep following what's happening within me, despite what may be happening outside, to deepen my faith, to really come into the reverence of the feel. There's a felt sense experience of God, mm, that I feel is becoming deeper and deeper as I progress through the illusion of time. And when it comes to the word God, how do we navigate? How do we start separating away from the illusions of God? How do we separate away from the mass falsehood when it comes to God? And me personally, I've found science really beneficial when it comes to my understanding of God. And it feels like, of me just saying this feels like we're going further away, but just bear with me a second. And one thing I like about especially quantum mechanics is they talk about the field, they talk about infinite potential, they talk about the prior substance to the universe. That's actually a little bit deeper. I think that's actually a little bit deeper. Now we're going into the teachings of the Taoism, the way, and one of my very influential books that I've read on again and again and again. I've listened to again and again and again is the Tao Te Ching. Within that, they talk about the formless substance of the universe. Prior to what's prior to creation? What is that? What is that? And David Hawkins talks about this as well, from his his whole journey of the mystic. And mysticism really comes into play here. And it's very kind of, people will share their different perspectives, their different journeys, but all pointing to the same thing, that there's this formless substance prior to the creation of the universe. And that's what we could call our source, where we emanate from. And what is that? And this is where we get into this, like, we're stepping into a totally different thing right now. And this is when we start to realize the teachings of Jesus, when we start to feel that God is love. That formless substance that is a prior to everything before it comes in, before it's manifested, is the quintessential essence of love. It is prior to duality. And we come in to this embodiment knowing deep down, on a deeper level, we don't often know it till later on, more consciously, that we've entered a world of duality. We've entered a world where it's this versus that, when really it's not a this versus that, it is a that and that. It isn't separate. There is just a gradient line. And the deeper we go within ourselves, the more that we descend inward, we can't help but come into the realization that we are one with this formless substance. There isn't any separation. There isn't a God over there and me here. There is only a oneness unfolding spontaneously forever. And coming back to that field, the field that they speak of in quantum mechanics, they talk about the infinite potential. It's just a sea of potential. And this is when we realize how intimate we are, how really intimately connected we are with God. It's our absolute core essence, is the principle of how the reality is observed. We actualize our potential through how we observe it. We have the power to actualize and break the wave function to manifest potential due to how it is observed. And how it is observed makes it feel like I'm here and that's there, but it's a reality is responding to what is happening within. It's all unfolding from within. There's not a separate space. It's actually what deeply potential is actualized by what we feel deeply. And what we feel deeply and how it's observed is very, very intimately connected. Once again, beyond duality, it is one. So, coming back to the misconceptions of God, the judgment day, the God as man figure, as father, as the dysfunctional parent condemning us, that experiences anger, wrath, which punishes. It's really important to discern the human psyche and its involvement and the shadow self when it comes to depictions of God, which were very prevalent over thousands and thousands of years. And it's those destructive patterns which have ended up unfolding all this falsehood when it comes to God. Really, really understanding our involvement in the creation process is one of the most fundamental, important factors of everything within the human experience. We are deeply involved. We are actualizing the sea of potential from what is happening within us, from what we are choosing in the eternal now moment. All God is the infinite powerhouse of potential, which is then actualized by our inner framework, inner observation, inner feeling, inner nervous system state. So it's time to transcend the falsehood of God It's time to transcend that. It's time to really step into and take responsibility of our roles within the creation process. We're here to understand duality, but simultaneously to transcend it and return back to the oneness of which we have come from. And that oneness is infinite love and infinite potential. I would love to hear your comments on this right now. What is your view on God? Where are you in your evolutionary process of believing in God, knowing about God, deeply knowing about God? Where are you? Where have you come from? What have you stepped away from your societal guidelines and structures and stepping into your own path? And that's such a big part of it, I feel, as well, is cultivating our own path despite what's being told, how we're trying to be moved around by our external world. God is about radically coming so deeply present and inward. Friends, this is a big subject, big topic. I'd love to hear more about it from you, most definitely. But until the next time, my friend, I cannot wait to see you in the next video.